went to LT. Oh,
Yeah, we're good. We got a couple seconds. All right, the time is now 6 o'clock, and I'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Tipp City School Board to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, sir. How's it going? No, you're good. Life. All right. Mr. Stevens, would you like to take attendance, please?
Mrs. Drum.
Here.
Mr. Maines.
Here.
Mrs. Dillard.
Here.
Mrs. McMurray.
here.
Mr. Thompson.
Here.
All present accounted for. We can continue.
All right. At this time, I would take a motion for approval of the agenda.
I'll move that we approve the agenda.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Dillard,
I'll second.
second by Mrs. McMurray. Is there any discussion? Okay, actually, I would like to add an item under Treasurer's Report, E, bond info.
And this will be a discussion.
Yes, a discussion, please.
So are we discussing?
No, we're putting that on the agenda. Oh, is there other things you wanted to move or change,
No,
Mrs. Dillard?
it said, never mind.
Okay, you're fine. The discussion, the item that I added is going to be a discussion item.
Got it.
That's what's happening. Anybody else?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
If you were to hit F5 and refresh, that would show up now. Well, I guess we haven't voted on it yet.
Yeah. All right, hearing nothing else, we'll go ahead and vote on the change to the agenda
Okay, so we're approving the meeting agenda
Yes.
as amended.
as amended. Yes, sir.
Mrs. Dillard.
Yes.
McMurray.
Yes.
Drum.
Yes,
Maines.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
motion passes.
Let me refresh.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Stevens.
It is there.
All right. Next is citizens' comments. No, you're good. Okay. Public content. The Board of Education recognizes the value of school governance of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. Any person or group wishing to place an item on the agenda shall register with their intent with the superintendent no later than 5 days prior to the meeting and include name and address of the participant, group affiliation, if and when appropriate topic to be addressed. Such requests shall be subject to the approval of the superintendent and board president. In order to permit the fair and orderly expression of such comment, the board shall provide a period for public participation at every regular meeting of the Board of those education meetings of the board during which action may be taken, and publish rules to govern such participation in board meetings. The presiding officer of each board meeting at which public participation is permitted shall administer the rules of the board for its conduct. The presiding officer shall be guided by the following rules. A public participant shall be permitted as indicated on the order of business and/or before the board takes official action of any issue of substance. B, anyone having a legitimate interest in the actions of the board may participate during the public portion of a meeting. C, attendees must register their intent to participate in the public portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting. D, participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and will be requested to preface their comments by an announcement of their name, address, and group affiliation, if and when appropriate. E, each statement made by the participant shall be limited to 5-minute duration unless extended by the presiding officer. F, no participant shall speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. G, all statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. H, tape or video recordings are permitted. The person operating the recording must contact the superintendent prior to the board meeting to review possible placement of the equipment and must agree to abide by the following conditions. 1, no obstructions are created between the board and the audience. 2, no interviews are conducted in the meeting room while the board is in session. 3, no commentary, adjustment of equipment, or positioning of operators is made that would distract either the board or members of the audience while the board is in session and not disrupt the meeting. I, the presiding officer may 1, interrupt, warn, terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. 2, request an individual to leave the meeting when that person does not observe reasonable decorum. 3, request the assistance of law enforcement officers in the removal of a disorderly person when that person's conduct interferes with the orderly progress of the meeting. 4, call for a recess and adjournment to another time when the lack of public decorum so interferes with the orderly conduct of the meetings such as to warrant such action. 5, waive these rules with the approval of the board when necessary for protection of privacy or the administration of the board's business. J, the portion of the meeting during which the participation of the public is invited shall be limited to 30 minutes unless extended by a vote of the board. Okay, our first person with public comments is Mrs. Kathy Bone.
Waiting. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Kathy Bone, Michaels Road, taxpayer. I'm here tonight before the board to let you know that I do not believe any of you are doing a good job for this school district or the community. You all have an opportunity to change mine and other members of this community thoughts of you and your activities on the board. There's a form on board docs to evaluate the board. I doubt any of you have ever even seen this. My rating so far this year of the board has led me to write in the letter U on every line for unsatisfactory. In order for this to ever change, I would like to see a lot of improvement in this board. You have every opportunity to research and do a better job. The OSBA is out there to help you. Board Docs is a valuable site as well. Not only does it have policy manuals in it for the school district and the bylaws, but it also contains forms other than the evaluation of the school board. There's also an organizational chart. This tells you where you are in the school district, what your position is. I suggest you all spend some time getting familiar with these things I've mentioned, as well as the Ohio Revised Code, especially concerning the Sunshine Laws and Open Meetings Act. One agenda item that I am frankly tired of seeing is the consent agenda. While this may make your meetings shorter, as it seems that's your desired goal, it definitely is being used to hide things from the public. Transparency does not seem to be a high priority on this board. The last place we should ever see contracts is the consent agenda. All contracts need to be pulled and discussed, although this board does not seem to know how to ask questions or what questions to ask. Taking note of some of these contracts are service-related to buildings and some are student and staff specific. I'll give you a hint of a few questions that might start a discussion. Is this a renewal of a previous contract or a totally new contract? Have we used this vendor in the past? What were the results? Is this the best contract for the district's needs? Does it meet the needs of the students and the staff? How does it meet those needs? Have we looked at other vendors? How does the comparison of other vendors stand up to this vendor and contract? Are there services in this contract that are repetitive of another contract we already have with another vendor? Is this cost effective? Mr. Stevens, do we have enough money for this? What fund is this money coming out of? These are just, and how much will this add to the deficit the school is already in? These are just a few questions that should be asked. There are dozens more, but I'm going to let you try to think on your own some of those other questions, and hopefully you will start asking more questions. Although with pulling some of these important items off the consent agenda, I doubt this would change anyone's votes, as you all seem to only carry your yes stamp to every board meeting. It puts a little light on these contracts for the community if you pull them out. It lets the community know where our money is going. I do have to say I left the last board meeting before it was over, only to answer my phone and hear a community member tell me a board member actually voted no on one item. While it did not change the outcome of the item passing, it was shocking news not only to me, but the other community members that brought this to my attention, that someone on the board actually thought twice about an agenda item and voted no on it. This year alone, I have overheard board members say they did not have time to look at the agenda before the meeting, but came in here anyway and voted yes on every item. I have seen a board member lean over to another and ask what an item is about and then vote yes on it, not knowing what that item was even about. You as a board member should never, never come into these meetings unprepared. As I said before, all you need to do is look at the OSBA website and all it has to offer and take this job seriously. You may need to admit that it's over your head, or you just didn't know all the work that goes into being a good board member, or you just don't have the time for it and step down. If you are not going to do the work that's required as a board member, and you are not in it for the students and the community, then you need to step down. Thank you.
All right, next, Mr. Watson.
Thank you for the microphone. Don Watson, 335 West State Route 571, Tipp City, Ohio. When working for the USPS in Tipp City, the longest walking, which they referred to drop, split, or swing, was walking around Broadway and Dow Street and 7th Street and 5th Street. It was all one. When I'd come to 318 Broadway to 218, while walking between the houses, I would think, why did they stop the fence at the newer Broadway playground and not run it all the way down to the entrance? All there is open windows, single pane glass, and as we saw in Butler, PA, any disgruntled person could walk up to the window and be disaster. Those children and teachers are just as important as the people was in Butler, PA. And I think we need an emergency meeting. Although you said this evening that we're all notified, I never am notified when there's an emergency meeting. And you lost a lawsuit. Yeah, $5,085.14 is what the public heard, but it actually costs $10,000 to an attorney and an additional $10,000 to another attorney. So this wasn't just $5,000, it was $25,000. and so much, 850, I believe. So I would at least, if we can spend 300,000 on a new curriculum, we could spend enough for an emergency fence to protect our children and teachers this fall on Broadway. In response to 2 thank you notes I received since I spoke about the word salvation, born again, righteousness. By the way, a friend called me and said that that's in the Bible 940 times. So it must be important. They said it was the first they heard of these terms. So let's add one scripture. Teach a child to choose the right path, and when he is older, he will remain upon it. Also, songs you learn when you're young that ground you in your faith. The Bible, yes, that's the book for me. I stand on the Word of God, the B-I-B-L-E. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. That's why I read scriptures at the board meeting, because it's the most important thing. Yes, science, math, English, and all those are important to educate our children, but their soul is what counts for eternity. So when you're at the scripture, which we hardly ever hear or see, is in Revelations 20, and it says, then the devil who had betrayed them will again be thrown into the lake of fire, burning with sulfur, where the creature and the false prophet are, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. And I saw a great white throne, and the one who sat upon it, from whose face the earth and the sky fled away, but they found no place to hide. I saw the dead, great and small, standing before God, and the books were opened, including the book of life, and the dead was judged according to the things written in the books, each according to the deeds he had done. Another important book that you usually, when studying the Bible, that unless you know Hebrew or Greek, is the dictionary. We have a choice. Selection, the meaning Webster says, is to choose a thing or person. Thank you.
You guys walked in, right? Mr. Jackson, did you want to? Okay. Mr. Jackson, would you mind filling this out?
On time, but it's a different building.
Yeah, we have.
I can't see that without my glasses. I'll deal with it
You want
later.
to deal with it later?
Yeah.
Hold on, I'll set your timer.
Yeah, set my timer. I'm gonna need, no. Hi, Mike Jackson, 937 Hunters Ridge, Tipp City, Ohio. And I'm here to say I think you're doing a great job. And having sat there for 8 years, instead of sitting in here and coming up and making comments, I actually ran and sat on the board. And it's hard. And you put up with a lot, and I appreciate what you do for us. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here to thank you and to thank the entire school system. In addition to some other things that I did this past month, I'm on the board for the air show, and I'm also the national chairman for Operation Welcome Home. And we asked a number of schools to help put together posters to put at our booth, which was pretty big, and we had thousands of visitors. Tipp City, despite the fact I didn't think that Tipp would come through because there are places around the base that I thought would really come through. Tipp City had more posters than any other school that we talked to. And I gotta say this, and hopefully no other schools find out I said this, but they also had probably the best posters. A lot of people had 8 by 10 sheets of paper. Tipp had giant posters, and they were fantastic, and they were well made, and I'm here I sent a letter to you so you could see the pictures of the posters. But I'm here so that the word can go out to all of the schools, because I don't have the email addresses for everybody, to thank all of the principals and all of the art teachers and the teachers that helped put those together, to help our veterans and thank our veterans. And they were so good that people wanted to take some of them home, which we let them do on Sunday. And some of them are now on exhibit up at the Miami Valley Veterans Museum. And they think they're fantastic, or they wouldn't have put them up in a real nice place of honor there. So on behalf of me and the veterans of this area, I want to thank Tipp City Schools for just a really good job. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. Anyone else miss the sign up? Okay. All right. Next, we'll move on to committee reports. So I don't, Mr. Maines, did you have one for NVC?
I do.
Awesome.
I do.
Fantastic.
I see that, I guess they probably didn't have them at the office, but I got mine. So.
Sweet. Go for it, sir. Let us know what happened.
Okay. It was mostly just going over our contracts with the certified staff and employment of personnel. We went through in our resolution to approve the fire and EMS clinical instructors, the clinical nurse as needed, substitute teachers as needed, substitute classified as needed, and adult education instructors as needed. We also approved contracts for bus drivers, security, and district ambassadors. Then after we did all that, we went through and we did some textbook review, textbook adoptions. We had 3 new ones: Student Workbook for Phlebotomy Essentials, 8th edition, Phlebotomy Essentials, 8th edition, and Phlebotomy Exam Review, 8th edition. We also approved our student handbooks and Youth Connections student handbook supplements, staff handbooks, transportation handbooks, substitute handbooks, adult education student handbooks. And then on that, then we approved a resolution adopting a Calamity Day alternative makeup plan, which we have to do each year. And then we approved some donations. We had some nice donations this past month. We received a hydraulic fluid service cart from Tron Air for the aviation maintenance technician program, and that was from Ashley Miller, who is an alumni of CTC. And then we also received a donation of 1,200 pounds of cement mix for the Wayne Construction Technology program from the Fairborn Cement Company. So that was pretty much it for the meeting, and it was a good meeting.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Maines. Is there any other committee? Yes, Mrs. Dillard.
So we had the Tipp Monroe Community Services on June 20th. And it started off, Mr. Moran and I got to present Tipp Monroe Community Services with the OSBA business honor roll. And that was really enjoyable to do, although Mr. Moran kind of threw me on the spot.
He does that, doesn't he? He has a tendency to do that, yeah.
So, just joking, of course. But the award, I actually nominated them for the award, and it was for all the things that they do for our district, things like Camp Kern, Lunch on Us, assistance to families for eyeglasses, backpacks of food for the weekend. They also do a supply drive, which is going on right now. Make sure you donate your supplies. And they do things for Liberty Commons, just so many things in our community. The Mum Festival, just can't even begin to go over all the services that they provide in partnership with the schools to provide for the needs of our students and families. So that was great. The meeting was mostly updates on things. They're really working on planning for the Mum Festival. They announced the retirement of Katie Sonnenstein. If you know Katie, she's been there forever and a day, and she's retiring. They are going to have a big party for her on August 1st at the Senior Citizen Center from 4 to 6. So I encourage you to go out and support her because she's just been a blessing in the community. Mm-hmm. So we have another meeting this Thursday, and there'll be more great things to report. So
Awesome.
it's a fun committee to attend.
To be a part of. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you, Mrs. Dillard, for that report. I appreciate it. All right, 4, we're heading into treasurer's reports. Mr. Stevens, if you would like to go over our monthly financial report.
Okay. Well, we finally made it. Month 12 is done and over with. It's in the books. Thank you for your support over the past 11 months, because I started off first. We have seen a lot happen this year, but what we're all concerned with is the items on page 5. This shows the year-end actual activity, and we did perform better than the anticipated $2.3 million expected that was on the May forecast, when we had said that if we spent every appropriation, we would show a negative balance of roughly $2.3 million. We ended up at $1.63 million in the deficit spend. Just as a reminder, though, $1 million of that is repayment to the self-insurance fund. Once again, it wasn't that we lost money, we just didn't increase premium costs throughout the years. We had a lot of 0% increases, which meant that we weren't collecting enough from ourselves and from the staff members. Going back and looking at calculations, if we had done, I think it was 7.5% every year an increase, we would have been just fine. But you know, that's history now. We are with the Southwestern Ohio EPC, and so things are moving smoothly with the health insurance. So we're done. We're now moving on to fiscal year 25. We're currently in fiscal year 25. Right now, we are currently operating on temporary appropriations that were passed in June. And again, when we discussed those last month, we were talking about how the appropriations tied to grant awards and federal grant awards, local grant awards, cash balances we had on hand, and estimated spending for the 5-year forecast. I will be updating the 5-year forecast. It's kind of now in my office a living document. I'm working on things as we go. Instead of just addressing it twice a year, I'll be updating it as I go. We will see these reductions in the total expenses. The good news is that a lot of items that we thought were going to be more expensive, like if you look at my sheet here under purchase services, you know, legal services, those costs were down. We did not spend nearly as much as we have in previous years, which kind of anticipated, as Mr. Moran and I are not contacting the attorneys, and we're not having these big issues all the time. Our utility costs actually were going up, and then they turned and went back down. And so we did have some electricity utility savings. Other costs, water, sewer, gas, those were still consistent, but electricity actually went down from what we expected. And we were able to pay some expenses with our ESSER money, so that was good. That funding is up at the end of this year. I think October 31st is when it has to be completely spent and reported to the federal government. So that money will be gone. And you know, we had $30,000 of budgeted professional development through the curriculum department that we did not use. There's like 29,000 something we did not use. I believe that we will be pushing more for teacher development. I know that is something that Mr. Moran has been talking with the teachers union about as we've been going through negotiations, just what we want to do in the future to help support the teachers. So that was professional development. But the biggest number that you'll see is the the personnel services for our salaries for our staff. It was really interesting to go through and look at the numbers. Classified staffing was higher than budget, and but it was the certified staff that was lower, much lower than anticipated. And I believe that was due to a lot, but while certified staff numbers were less than anticipated, the substitute costs were higher. And we did have a lot of staff members out, FMLA leave, we've got some disability absences, and so the costs that we would have normally spent, those teachers weren't here for that, but their long-term subs were here, and so we saw those substitute costs higher. And so looking back at the past 3 years, I saw trends from fiscal year 21 to fiscal year 22. The increase was $500,000 in teaching and certified costs. It was not just teachers, but certified administration. If you recall, we did add 2 administrative salaries in 2022. That was the director of curriculum and the special, what's Tom P. course? Exceptional children coordinator. And so that went up 500,000. And then in 22 to 23, it went up 300 and something thousand. But from 23 to 24, it's 50. So it was much, much lower. So that kind of matches up here with what we're seeing. So that's a good thing. We'll take that and put that savings in the next year. I do have a very detailed Excel spreadsheet that it has every person, every staff member we have, so we can try to be much closer on the salaries amount. I did not have the luxury of that spreadsheet earlier this year because I came in after the fiscal year had already started, but we're going to have that for next year. Been working on that for a while. But overall, we did end up better, but we still had a large deficit spend. So, any questions for board members that I can answer at this time?
I just want to say I think you're doing a great job, Dave. I think that as somebody who manages budgets for a living, a lot of people don't really understand. Your average person doesn't understand the amount of detail that you have to keep your arms around and the amount of work it is for you and your team to do what you do. It's great news that we're $700,000 less in the hole than what we had projected to be. So that's a win in my book. It's still not where we want to be, but anytime that you can come in with that much savings and operate under that much efficiency to show that sort of a dent in that kind of a number is great. But it's a testament to your hard work and your ability to keep your arms around the details. I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you for that. The last new money levy for operating, the new money operating levy was in 2015. It was an emergency levy that started collections in 2016. My goal is to try to continue using those funds and try to not go back to the community for more money. Just with the right sizing that's been done this year and in the staffing and other areas, I'm really happy to see. I saw diesel fuel was only $3.69 driving in today, and I was thinking of when I was talking with Milton's operations manager 2 years ago, and it was $4.85, $5, and just those prices. We're seeing that on our side, with fuel costs being less than where we thought they would be because prices have come down. I'm hoping that the I keep wanting to say the word community. That's not it. I'm just hoping that those prices can come down in all areas and not just in certain areas.
Yeah.
So just for the school district's benefit and everybody's benefit. I know we talked at our last meeting about food costs and how those have gone up, and we're seeing posts on social media of here's my Walmart order from 4 years ago, $70, and now it's $170. Just how crazy it is with the price increases. So hopefully that transition can happen and we can start seeing some more cost savings so that we can continue to complete fiscal years without having to go to the community for more new money. So.
Yeah. I will say, I was just had a meeting because I'm finishing up my budget from the big grant that I had with ESSER money from ODEW, and it was over $500,000. So managing that budget for the last 2 years. But one thing that they had mentioned, so the original monies was $89 million, and not all of it has been spent. It is my understanding that quite a bit of it has not been spent, and they're talking about I don't know what that's going to look like, but they're talking about potentially redistributing that to the districts.
Some additional funding.
Yes. Okay. So because it has to be spent, and so I was just going to tell you, keep your eyes and ears out for that. I don't know what that will look like. I know that the district has benefited from those grants previously. I don't know what that will look like in the future, but just an FYI, not all of that ESSER money has gotten spent, and it had October, so they have until like October 1st to get their minor due, August 1st, but everybody else is October 1st, and then they'll see, and then they're talking about redistributing.
Some reallocation of
Mhm.
unused ARPA.
Yeah.
Extra money, okay.
Yep. So just FYI.
All right, thank you for that.
Yep.
Anybody else? Questions, concerns?
I just happened to notice, I was looking back to, I think it's in the 2020 5-year forecast. I wanted to see how that compared back then to where we are, and it was so close. I was
Is it
amazed.
really?
Yeah, you go back and take a look at that, and
Well,
yeah, it was,
that's really cool, because,
Yeah.
I mean, 5 years of, that,
Wow.
there was nothing, nope. I didn't do that on purpose, that's just, I'm gonna
Especially
say
for
pure
COVID and
coincidence
everything.
there, Rick.
mm-hmm, yeah.
Wow.
Take credit.
Okay, I'll take it.
Good job. Good job.
Well, I appreciate your confidence, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Okay. Any others? I was just excited to see legal expenditures go down, but.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Next, I would love a motion to approve the fiscal year 2025 temporary appropriation amendment funds 004 building fund, $88,270.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, moved by Mrs. McMurray,
I'll second.
seconded by Mr. Maines. And then are you guys okay with me?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, Mr. Stevens and,
So the 004 fund is a fund that we don't normally use, but because we're gonna have a project happening here soon with OFCC, we have to resurrect it from the dead. And we currently have 2 projects going on, and that is the architecture design of the bus maintenance garage and the tennis courts. And so we are, I'm increasing appropriations here in the 004 fund so that we can legally spend that money. There's going to be another item on the agenda to advance funds from the general fund to the 004 fund so that we can pay for the work that's being done in anticipation of the bonds being sold and money being deposited into the 004 fund for these projects, and then we can repay the general fund for that advance. So this is just the first step that's needed so that we can spend money out of the previously defunct 004 fund, now brought back.
And I would like to say, I did attend the first juncture of the OFCC facilities meeting, representing the board, and I learned a lot in that hour and a half, including the 004 fund, and I appreciated everyone from the state that was there, and I think their confidence in the district, and that was evident with Mr. Stevens and the work that he has done. So it was a great meeting, and I look forward to being part of those meetings in the future.
all right. Awesome. Okay. Hearing no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote.
McMurray,
Yes.
Maines,
Yes.
Drum,
Yes.
Dillard,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
All right, motion passes for the temporary appropriation amendments. Letter C is a motion for the approval of the ORC 5705.41 purchase order certification then and now fiscal year 25 for July 2024. Yes. Is there a,
I'll motion.
okay, moved by Mr. Thompson,
I'll second.
and then I'm gonna, are you guys okay with me passing over?
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Stevens.
This is something that we haven't seen very much of this year. The board is legally required to approve any invoice for payment that is over $3,000 where the invoice date is before the check date. I'm sorry, before the purchase order date. What we have here is there was an order that was placed by the athletic funds to Huddle, and it is for the services of Focus Exchange Network. This is for stats and things like that posted online. The order was supposed to be 7/1 because the services don't start until 7/1, but they invoiced us on 6/1. And it's a 7/1 purchase. So it's just they can't go back. We asked them to change the invoice date. They said it's an automatically generated invoice. We can't do that. So we now have a then and now with the board's legal need to approve this before I make payment on it. So we're just looking for a then and now approval from the board. And again, we try not to have this happen very often, especially with large expenses like this. So I just need board approval. I have not cut the check yet.
Okay,
So to be clear, this is just getting approval because of a clerical thing?
Yes, it's a timing issue.
Yeah, okay.
And Mr. Kramer also informed me that this purchase will be reimbursed by the boosters.
Okay.
So.
okay, any other questions? Thank you for the last part of what it will be reimbursed by, because I was gonna ask that next question too, so. Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote.
Thompson,
Yes.
McMurray,
Yes.
Drum,
Yes.
Dillard,
Yes.
Maines.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes for the purchase order certification. All right, next D, advances. Recommend a motion for approval of the following advances. $88,270 from the 001-000 general fund to the 004-000 whatever building fund. And then $50,000 from the 001 general fund to the 300-9504 high school athletic fund.
I'll make the motion,
Thank you,
make the
Mrs.
transfers or
Thank you.
advances.
Thank you, Mrs. Dillard.
I'll second.
And thank you, Mr. Maines. And then, did you have anything you wanted to say on it, Mr. Stevens?
Yeah, the first item is what I mentioned earlier with needing to fund the 004 fund with an advance from the general fund to pay for those architecture services. The second is our athletic fund, our high school athletic fund ended the year with just a smidge above zero for the athletic fund. And so these advances are in anticipation of revenues, ticket receipts from football and the athletic passes. We're hoping that we can repay this, but I believe that the athletic fund will need help this year. In the past, we've advanced money to the athletic funds, and we have not for the past 2 years. And so, you know, with COVID and with the loss of revenue back in 2021, was that 2021? 2020? Yeah, you know,
Yeah, because we
their
we
funds
didn't
took a
finish the
hit.
2020
year.
and
Mm,
21.
And
yeah.
20, yeah,
21.
21 too for,
The,
Yeah.
the middle school athletic fund is still doing well, but it was the high school athletic fund where we're seeing some losses. So I'm hoping that we can refund the 50,000 with the refund from the boosters. That's good. I mean, the boosters help a lot with the district, but this could end up being one where we need to convert the transfer, at least a portion of it, to a portion of the advance to a transfer. But currently, they don't have the funds at all for operating in the summer months. So this is just to help them as we try to see if we can receive more funds. One of the biggest expenses last year they had was referee fees, officials fees. They were much higher than we've seen. And what are you going to do? Stop playing sports games? So I think that the extracurricular activities are a good opportunity for our students for education on the field as well. So I'm not going to suggest that we stop doing that. Anyway, any questions from board members?
so I just have a question. So in the past, you're saying we've had funds that we put in there? I just want to make sure that I'm
We have
understanding.
transferred some money
Okay.
over to the athletic fund. We've also transferred money so we have a high school athletic fund, and we also have team accounts
Yes,
where
I
we
knew
have
that.
put pay-to-play money.
Okay,
And I believe that for the team accounts, since we have not done pay-to-play transfers in the past 2 years, that the athletic fund has been helping to supplement the teams and to help provide for what they need. And so the athletic account is lower than it used to be. But before that, we did have some transfers into the athletic fund. So it's like almost self-sustaining, but it's not.
got it.
It's just like our 006 food service fund. In the past, we used to have to transfer money every year. And then when COVID hit and they made the lunches 100% reimbursable, we received a lot of federal funding. And so right now, the 006 fund has more money than we've seen in the past, and we haven't had to have a transfer. We didn't need to increase the lunch prices like we discussed last board meeting, because we still have those funds sitting in the account. We'll get to the point again where that food service fund, well, you know what, I'm not sure. We'll see
Yeah,
some
we'll see
changes.
what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a few years with the changes of the
Yep.
building configuration, that could change how
Yeah.
our food service fund is operated, so we'll just see. I mean, but 006 and 300 funds are usually the ones where we're moving some money around to try to help.
And I have a question, what communication with the boosters and the athletic director and even the coaches about making sure that the money is there in the future, you know, is that?
Well, all of the coaches, they have their team accounts.
Right,
And they submit budgets
right,
to the treasurer's office. The coaches fill out the budget. It's approved by the athletic director, and then they send it to me, and I make sure that they're doing fundraisers or if there's other money coming in to help support the items that they're looking to purchase for the year. And so anytime that they try to go over that approved expense, I've said, what have you done to bring in more money? Or I check their cash balance with the coach or with Lisa Copley, the secretary, or with Craig Kramer, the athletic director, and we determine that they have the ability to actually make that purchase. There are some that I've had to say, look, we can't do this because you don't have the funds and you don't have a fundraiser for it. And some of them have turned around and have put a fundraiser on the books and they've raised some funds. So, and then Craig and I, while we didn't get a chance to do it last year, when the year starts up and he's back in the office, we'll be discussing his budget and going over the expenses from last year and trying to determine where we can cut back or find out where we're going to be in a deficit for the 300 fund. Again, the largest expense was the officials' fees.
I just think it's important for, you know, athletics brings the community together. And I think it's important for the community to understand, you know, the expenses that are associated with that. No one wants to, you know, increase those fees and things, but we also have to make sure that we are covering those costs and things like that.
Yeah.
Whether the sport is in a huge stadium or, you know, a smaller team, you know, and everything in between.
Every team has its own
Right.
athletic account, district athletic account.
Yeah.
Football, wrestling, baseball, girls basketball, boys soccer, girls soccer. Every one of them, all the transactions or all the activities they have, we can see who's bringing in what ticket revenue. And we know that football is the largest money maker. Boys soccer brings in a lot, and the basketball teams bring in a lot. And but then the other sports, they're using the funds that have been brought in to help support them throughout the year as well. But we can definitely track what's being spent, what's being brought in. And so it's good to have all of that instead of just one miscellaneous fund that everything is spent out of and brought into.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Awesome.
Cindy, you were going to ask a question.
I just, so the predominant funding to this fund normally is through ticket sales?
Yes, ticket
So
sales.
Is it 100% of the ticket sales go into this fund, or is it
Yes.
a percentage?
Everything that we receive everything we receive for an athletic event goes into the athletic fund. The only time you would see money not go into the athletic fund is when we have our tournaments. And the tournament money, we get to keep a portion of the sales. The rest of the money has to be submitted back or remitted back to the OHSAA. And but all of the ticket revenue, all of the season tickets that we sell, that all goes in the 300 fund. I should say the 39504 special cost center.
Yeah.
And then the middle school funds, the middle school athletics bring in their ticket revenues as well. We do have concessions for some groups. Will sell concessions, and that goes into the funds as well.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and proceed to vote.
Dillard,
Yes?
Mames,
Yes.
Drum,
Yes,
McMurray,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
motion passes. Next is E, bond info. So this is just discussion, but I wanted
you guys know what I wanted, but I kind of wanted to hear how everything went with, like the Moody rating and all that stuff that came back, so.
I'll go ahead and start. We kind of mentioned it at the last meeting, but just to be clear, on June 13th, Moody's rating agency Chicago presentation of their financial Bradley Payne discussed our district. We spoke about the good things that we have in our district, the community, the students, the enterprise, the businesses here, and we were showing Moody's that we're a good investment. We provided them with financial information. A lot of it was prepared and pulled by Baird Financial and Bradley Payne. Their job was to help create this presentation so that we could show who we are. We met with 2 representatives from Moody's, and it was an hour and 30 minutes. Mr. Burns said it would go by really quick, and he was right. I mean, they couldn't shut me up fast enough. They didn't want to go for an hour and 40. Like, quiet, Dave, we're done. But Mr. Moran and I and Mr. Burns and Mr. Shaw felt really good after the presentation. Before we went into the presentation, Mr. Burns had said to us, we're hoping for an AA3 designation. Realistically, you could just receive an A1 designation. So it goes AAA, AA1, AA2, AA3, and then A1, A2, A3, and then you get Bs. And so they have 13 rating levels, and we were shooting for level 4, hoping for level 3, the AA2, but Mike had prepared us, we could receive the A1 rating. And we, on July 11th, we received our rating, and Tipp City was awarded a AA3 rating. That is the 4th highest that you can receive. Mr. Shaw was able to find some data that indicated that in October of 2023, Moody's had rated 308 school districts. 154 of them had received a AA2 or a AA3 and up, and 154 below that, AA1 and down. There is a district that is rated BA1, and that is the 11th out of 13 ratings out there. So we are in the top 50% for the ratings in the district. We're very happy that we received the AA3 rating. We will participate at the last board meeting or the last regular meeting. We approved a document allowing us to participate with the state rating insurance program. So the state will guarantee a portion of our bonds at a higher rating than the AA2. And I'm not sure if we get AA3. I'm not sure if it's AA2 or if it's AA1, but we get a better interest rate if the higher our ratings are. We have the ability to pay for some insurance for the remainder of our bonds to increase it to an AA2 rating or an AA1 rating. But we're really excited with what we received. Now we're currently waiting for the controlling board, the state controlling board, to approve the project in its final stage. We just received final commission approval from OFCC, so the commission is now moving ahead and starting to put out some document emails, but we're waiting for the controlling board for their approval August 19th, and then we will sell the bonds after August 19th with the controlling board approval, and then things will really start rolling. So, Mr. Moran, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so now in the next 3 or 4 weeks, the RFQs for the architect, engineer, and the construction manager will go out, and then we'll start that selection process probably in a month and a half. So hopefully have everybody on board by end of September.
That's great news.
Yeah.
Good. How quickly do the bonds sell once they're put out?
As soon as we go to sell, they'll be sold in a few hours.
Wow.
Yeah. So we still have another meeting, not a meeting, but we will go to Baird Financial's office and we will sit with them as we watch the market open. And I'm told it's an amazing process to watch. There's going to be people calling, and they're going to be working out deals on trying to do packages and things. By the end of the session, all $78 million will be spoken for.
Wow.
And then we will receive the funding, and Red Tree Investment Group will help me determine where all this money is supposed to go, because then we're going to be using it to fund these projects over the next 3+ years, because we also have to do demolition after. But I was doing the OFCC training on the codes, the financial codes, account codes. They're going to have me open like 20 codes, 30 codes to try to keep track of all this money. You have OFCC's portion with interest, OFCC's non-OFCC portion, and then it's just mind-boggling. I've made a few calls like, I'm gonna need some help here, guys, because I'm not quite sure. I've called Fairborn because they're currently doing a project with OFCC. I know the assistant treasurer over there. I'm like, can you just give me a screenshot of all the account codes that you have for your building project? And it's kind of overwhelming, but.
Is there any restrictions on the type of account that we can house that money in? Like, do they designate
Yes.
that for you?
Yes,
Okay.
they're
I asked that
legally, as
same
a school
question
district,
when we met.
there's restrictions on what we can put the money into. And we also need to have it in, we need to put investments, timed investments, so that money is free and available as the project, as invoices come in on the project. So there's a lot to do with it. And I'm told that it's going to be a lot for the treasurer. So looking forward to it.
But I was impressed by the OFCC team
Yes.
that
Yes.
came. They were very impressive.
Mhm. I mean, we're not the first school district to build a
No.
school building with OFCC, so
No.
Yeah.
it should be good.
And Kyle, I asked that same question when
Yeah.
we're meeting at the school board.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Morano? I kind of took it back and made it a Dave show. Sorry.
So realistically, looking at sometime in September, things will really start moving for us.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
October, November.
It'd be
After
a
the
great
first
way
year.
to kick off the school year with the bonds being sold. If you think about it, that they're gonna be sold after August 19th. That's right when school is getting going
August
and
14th.
can really
Yeah.
propel a lot of energy, you know?
And that will determine then what the millage rate will be,
Mhm.
you know, the interest rates and things like that, so
Yeah.
that will determine that piece.
Okay.
That's exciting.
That's great. While we're kind of on the topic, I just wanted to confirm, the county auditor contacted me yesterday. We are not putting the renewal levy for the emergency levy on this fall ballot, correct? I didn't think so. I just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Not even in my wheelhouse. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Stevens and Mr. Moran. Appreciate it. All right, next is our consent agenda. I would love a motion for the approval of the consent agenda items. Mrs.
I'll
Dillard.
move
Okay.
for the
moved by-
consent agenda items.
Awesome. Thank you, Mrs. Dillard. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Maines. There isn't any discussion needed, but everything is listed as far as documents in the consent agenda for public consumption as well. So we'll go ahead and vote.
Dillard,
Yes?
Maines,
Yes.
Drum,
Yes.
McMurray,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. All right, new business. Item A is RIF resolution to resend. I would love a motion to recommend, a motion to approve the resolution rescinding the suspension of Candace Jasinski's limited contract, and the contract is included in public content.
I'll move that we make a motion to rescind the RIF.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Dillard,
I'll second.
second by Mrs. McMurray. Sorry, Mrs. Dillard, did you have any discussion item?
I know that there's a lot of really happy people. This is in the drama department, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So just good news.
Yeah. Yes. Mrs. McMurray?
No.
All right. Any other discussion? Mr. Thompson?
No.
Means. All right. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and proceed to vote.
Dillard,
Yes?
McMurray,
Yes.
Drum,
Yes.
Maines,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
All right. Motion passes. Next is student handbooks. A motion for approval of the 2024-25 elementary, middle, and high school student handbooks.
All motion.
Moved by Mr. Thompson. And I'll go ahead and second. All right, Mr. Thompson, did you have any discussion?
I did not.
Okay. Anyone else have discussion before?
Were there any major changes or were there just?
No, you have the red lines in there, no major changes. Let's say
This wording?
a lot of
wording.
wording, but making sure attendance policies were all aligned was a big piece of that.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, the schedule changes.
The time
Yes,
cert.
and that was gonna be my
Yeah.
next thing, yeah.
And trying to have, again, the later the middle school and high school start, the better off, I think, get sleep, but also just, and then obviously with the elementary, we don't, we had 10 minutes between LT ball and Broadway and then another 10 minutes between Democratic. With Democratic not there, we don't need that extra time, so we just moved the times up, worked with transportation director to make sure those times are gonna work, so we're confident. We need to make some tweaks, we'll make some tweaks, but we think we can get everybody there, again, being as efficient as possible.
And I think for the community to make note, I know that there was, some discussion in the community, the concern of the drastic changing of the time of the schools. It's some haven't changed at all, some it's by 5 minutes. So I think that it's now that we have it, along with the gentle reminder, as I'm reminding myself, to re-register your children for the 2024-2025 school year, but making sure that timeline goes out to everyone. That includes, I love the timeline that you sent us to go to all of the families so that they can see that there were not any drastic start or end changes. We're not talking about an hour or even 45 minutes, it's 5 minutes, so.
Yeah.
Middle school, I think, is
Yeah.
7:30 to 7:50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going out in the newsletter, but also will go out to all, that newsletter will go out to all families with some information on the parking, how we're gonna redo parking at
Right.
LT Ball and at Broadway for drop off and
Yeah.
pick up. And that will be out here
Mhm.
beginning, end of this month, beginning of August.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything. And we did change the practice of our transportation to be more consistent. So we picked a dot in between the middle of our LT Ball and Broadway, did a half-mile circle. So anybody outside that circle then gets transportation to any building. So it's not a matter of, somebody goes to this building, they get it there.
Right.
We try to increase opportunities.
Right.
Increase this.
Oh, wow.
The amount,
Yeah.
and that was a little bit of working with time, so we're trying to increase our ridership a little bit, provide more opportunities, consistency for families.
Yep.
For the next 3 years.
That's
And then when
awesome.
we go to one
Right.
building, it'll be much better.
And after sitting in the meeting with OFCC, I would definitely encourage the families that have an opportunity to take advantage of the school provided transportation to try to do that if they can, and to everyone to take a breath with pickup and drop off, because it's going to be a challenge
Yes.
with the construction happening, with getting around to LT and still utilizing those two buildings to their full extent. So they're not going to see that I mean, they probably won't even see any of that or feel it until either late next spring or the following fall. But I think it's important that everyone makes a plan and knows that it's a temporary inconvenience. And eventually we'll have K through 8 all at one building, and that should streamline transportation even more. So
And I personally am just very excited that there's like designated times that the kids can enter the buildings too.
yes,
I feel like that's always been a
Yes.
very changing,
Yes.
ever evolving. Sometimes it's this time, sometimes it's that time. So I'm really glad that it's laid out clearly now. I'm very excited about that. And then what time the office is closed and what time they open every day. Because I feel like sometimes you just don't know, or you think it might be open but you're not sure. So I'm really glad that that's all included. I also want to thank everybody who was on any of the handbook committees. I know how exhausting it is to go over all of the information, create new things, change things, rework the wording. That it takes a lot of time. And then thank you, I know Kristen works on these too, and so thank you, Kristen, for all that hard work as well. And then I love that you also put the 2-hour late arrival times in there for parents to see as well in the middle school and the high school one also. So thank you again for all of that work. Really appreciate it. So anybody else? Questions, concerns? Okay. And then I just had a thing, but I think we're gonna fix it. So if we change that, will we have to resend? No, okay. All right, fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and vote then for the approval of the handbooks for the 24-25 elementary, middle, and high school student handbooks.
Thompson,
Yes.
Drum,
Yes.
Dillard,
Yes.
Maines,
Yes.
McMurray.
yes.
All right, motion passes. At this time, I would love a motion to adjourn to executive session for purposes authorized under Board of Education Policy 0166 and ORC 121.22G4 to review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. Official action may follow the meeting. Sorry, go on. Yes, Mrs. Dillard.
I'll make the motion since I've been there negotiating.
I'll second since I've been there too. Except for
right.
Cindy, she's been there a little more than me.
Okay, awesome. All right, so moved by Mrs. Dillard and seconded by Mrs. McMurray. Any discussion?
I just want to say that I've been on the part of negotiations with other districts that I've been employed at, and this has actually been a really great experience. So I appreciate everyone who has participated with their time and insight and input. So thank you for that dedication to the process.
Awesome. Okay. Any others?
I would say it's been a very positive and a learning experience, and I think that everyone that's been sitting at the table is really interested in doing what's best for our teachers and students, and I've learned an incredible amount, so I've enjoyed it, and
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear all about it. All right, so let's go ahead and vote.
Dillard,
yes.
McMurray,
Yes.
Drum,
Yes.
Maines,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. The time is now 7:07, and we will head into executive session.
Okay, the time is now 7:47. We are back from executive session and no official action will be taken. All right, our next work session meeting will occur on August 6th, 2024 at the Board of Education office beginning at 6 p.m. And our next regular Board of Education meeting will occur on August 20th, 2024 at LT, will be an
We'll
LT.
be going back.
LT Ball,
Okay.
beginning at 6 p.m. All right, at this time, I would take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
All motion.
Moved by Mr. Thompson,
I'll second.
second by Mrs. McMurray. Any discussion?
None.
Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
McMurray,
Yep.
Drum,
Yes.
Dillard,
Yes.
Maines.
Yes.